The world is full of dark stories, but today we're going to tell you the dark tale behind one of San Francisco's bathhouses. This wasn't some ordinary building we're talking about, but a building that for a while was a happy place for thousands of people. How exactly does this story begin? So it all began when Adolf Sutro arrived in America in 1850, a young immigrant from Prussia, today's Germany, who stepped into the country with dreams that didn't match the resources in his pockets. He studied engineering on his own, absorbing everything he could about machinery, geology, and the strange behavior of the earth beneath the expanding towns and mines. People saw him as brilliant, but unusual. However, before he ever planned anything grand in San Francisco, Sutro was focused on something far more important: safety. Back then, the mines of the Comstock lode were choking with heat and toxic gases, and explosions were so common that death became a routine headline. Miners knew the risks but didn't have the power to demand change, and company owners dismissed anything that cost time or money. So, Sutro proposed a massive ventilation tunnel, something that could release pressure, carry out dangerous fumes, and save countless workers. But unfortunately, he was mocked, ignored, and pushed aside. No one paid attention to him until a disaster hit the tunnels, where over 35 miners lost their lives, and then they suddenly needed the solution he had been proposing. Above all, after the tunnel finally proved its worth and saved countless miners, Sutro's life changed almost overnight. His design made the mines safer and more profitable, and the man who had once been dismissed as unrealistic suddenly became someone powerful who could no longer be ignored. Therefore, the success brought him enormous wealth, and he used it quickly and strategically, buying large pieces of land across San Francisco's western edge, long before the cliffs and hills were considered valuable. With every new purchase, his confidence grew, and he began imagining something far larger than tunnels. Eventually, everyone was wondering what Sutro was planning to make. Finally, in 1896, Adolf Sutro decided to build something that looked like it belonged more to a future than to a coastline. In fact, he wanted a castle for the public, or more like a monument to water, light, and engineering, and somehow he pulled it off. Eventually, after 2 years of constant building, the Sutro Baths rose like a glass and steel cathedral on the coast of the Pacific. Actually, it was an enormous indoor complex, with saltwater pools fed directly by the ocean itself. So waves came in through tunnels cut into the rocks, filling 6 large saltwater pools, while a separate freshwater pool, for those who like a different kind of swimming, sat quietly on its own. Beyond the hundreds of dressing rooms stacked like tiny cliffside apartments, the place opened into glass walkways, big echoing rooms, and platforms where the seawater caught the light. What made the place truly astonishing was the machinery behind the scenes. A massive turbine water pump that pulled in 6,000 gallons of ocean water per minute, an energy-hungry giant that kept the pools constantly refreshed and alive with movement. What's more, the air carried a mix of salt, metal, and machine heat, along with the steady sound of the ocean. Sunlight poured through the panels and lit the pools from above, making the water shine even on foggy days. Moreover, as the baths grew, Sutro added even more unusual touches, such as real sand beaches brought indoors so visitors could enjoy the feeling of the seaside without ever stepping outside. The whole place felt like a strange blend of nature and engineering, created to impress anyone who walked through its doors. But for visitors, it wasn't just a place to swim. In that time, it was a place of laughter and, more importantly, fun. Above all, Sutro never wanted the baths to be a playground only for the rich. He built them with the idea that every person in the city deserved to access something beautiful. That's why admission only cost 25 cents, low enough that even families barely holding things together could afford a visit. So for a while it worked. Families came in droves, children splashed under the high arches, and the giant glass structure stayed warm from the sound of laughter. But only 2 years after opening, Sutro died, proud of what he had built, convinced that he had given the city something permanent. Unfortunately, monuments built so close to the water don't stay untouched, and the baths were no exception. As the years passed, the salt, the weather, and the hard economic times of the 1920s and 30s slowly wore everything down, piece by piece. What once felt grand started to feel strangely hollow, and people slowly stopped coming. Here is where the actual dark story begins. Eventually, it began to feel like a cursed structure, one that no one could quite control or save. Developers kept drawing up plans, changing them, and abandoning them. Still, the land was valuable, but the old building refused to be reused or reshaped. For years it stayed stuck in between, too costly to repair, too loved to tear down, and too damaged to bring back. As it slowly fell apart, the place started to feel different. Many people nearby spoke of strange feelings around the tunnels, shadows that didn't move with the waves, and odd noises drifting up from the lower levels after dark. Then, in 1966, the end came in a way that still leaves people unsure. A huge fire broke out inside the baths, and when it was over, almost everything was gone. Only twisted metal, broken beams, and pieces of concrete were left. The official explanation said it was an accident, but many people didn't accept that. The size of the fire, the timing, and how fast it destroyed the place made it feel like something had been waiting for a final blow. Almost like something wanted the building erased completely. They say the flames were so strong that the remaining pools reflected the firelight like bright orange mirrors, making the whole scene look unreal. But that wasn't all. What remained after the flames wasn't emptiness, though. The site became a ruin, but not the peaceful kind. It turned into a place where tourists walk over cracked foundations without understanding the weight beneath their feet, where locals hesitate before wandering too far into the tunnels. Some say the strange atmosphere comes from the way the wind moves through the broken concrete, but a lot of visitors describe the same thing, the sense that they're intruding. The most unsettling stories come from people who visit at dusk. They talk about footsteps on gravel when no one else is there, sudden cold spots in the corners, and the sense that something moves in the shadows where the pools once sat. Some even claim to see near-faint shapes near the lower levels that disappear the second you try to look directly at them. The Sutro Baths were meant to be a gift to the city, a place of light and excitement. But what's left now shows how quickly beauty slips into something unreachable once it's abandoned. Walking through it now feels like stepping into two timelines at once. One filled with families and swimmers, the other stripped down to scorched foundations and cold water gathering in broken corners. What began as a grand vision ended as a stark reminder of how quickly things can fade when the world moves on. Beneath the burned beams and shattered concrete is a story that never truly finished, still lingering in the salt-heavy air long after the last fire died. The Sutro Baths are proof that memories last far longer than the structures we leave behind. What do you think really happened here? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Many more stories are waiting to be uncovered, and you will be the first one to know.